Tonight, Australia's home of sport to remain in the capital, with the federal government deciding against moving the Institute of Sport interstate. Also tonight, Foreign Minister Penny Wong urges China to be more open about its military build-up, with fears of increased tensions in the Indian Ocean. Australia joins the United Nations in its deep concerns about the fate of civilians in southern Gaza as Israel draws up evacuation plans ahead of a ground assault. And Lunar New Year revellers gather in Dixon to welcome the Year of the Dragon. Yuma, good evening. Adrienne Francis with ABC News, coming to you from Ngunnawal country, and we also acknowledge other people and families with connection to the lands of the ACT. Speculation about the future of the Australian Institute of Sport in the capital is at an end, with the facility to remain in Canberra. The federal government ordered the review into AIS infrastructure last year amid calls to move the site to southeast Queensland ahead of the 2032 Brisbane Olympic Games. But the review has rejected that proposal.
Certainty for a Canberra institution. The federal government has confirmed the national home of sport will stay in the capital. It's welcome news for the ACT government. The loss of the AIS, a prospect which would have been a significant blow to the planned precinct upgrades.
It's the heart of the sports element, and clearly it brings a lot of people, tourists, elite athletes, coaches into that precinct.
The Albanese government ordered an independent review of AIS infrastructure in October amid calls to move the ageing facility to southeast Queensland. The review's report rejected that proposal, vindicating those who insisted the site needed investment, not relocation, ahead of the 2032 Games.
On a bigger concept of the Australian sporting community, to have that facility open again for trade is awesome. What it did in the lead up to Sydney was extraordinary. The results we got there reflected the commitment and the passion around sport in Australia, and I'm hoping we can reinvigorate that.
It's not clear what it will cost to get the institute up to international standards.
Our expectations were they would need to invest more than $200 million in the AIS precinct.
But Senator for the ACT and Finance Minister Katie Gallagher has flagged the Commonwealth will foot most of the bill.
Obviously, we'll work in partnership with the ACT government as we work through some of the issues around this review, but I would see this as a Commonwealth responsibility.
The remaining recommendations are being considered by the federal government ahead of the May budget. And though the Games are 8 years away, getting facilities up to scratch could be a sprint to the finish line. Isaac Naruzi, ABC News, Canberra.
The Foreign Minister has used a keynote speech in Perth to warn about the risk of conflict in the Indian Ocean, while pressing China to be more open about its military build-up. Penny Wong delivered the warning at a major gathering of foreign ministers and top officials from Indian Ocean states, from South Asia through to the Middle East and Eastern Africa.
A gathering of friends at a perilous moment.
The same unprecedented threats that are facing the Pacific Ocean side of the region are also faced on the Indian Ocean side.
New Delhi and Beijing are facing off in the Indian Ocean, with more Chinese warships, surveillance ships and submarines pushing into waters uncomfortably close to India.
Countries of the Indo-Pacific face China's rapid military build-up without the transparency and reassurance that the region looks for from all great powers.
Australia is preparing on its own Indian Ocean territory of Cocos-Keeling Islands, lengthening a key runway so high-tech surveillance planes can land there.
We always seek presence in order to reinforce stability.
India and Australia also share very similar anxieties about Chinese diplomacy in some Indian Ocean states.
There is a need to address disinformation, interference, opaque lending practices and coercive trade measures.
Unsustainable debt, opaque lending practices, unviable projects and injudicious choices. Similarly, there are the complexities of dual-purpose agendas.
But some of the countries caught in the tussle between China and India would prefer all the major powers to take a step back. Sri Lanka's president warning that the jostling is making life harder and more unpredictable.
The space for manoeuvrability for littoral states is shrinking fast.
The list of potential hotspots and conflict zones around the globe just seems to keep on growing. And Australia's anxious that the Indian Ocean could join that list in the future. One of the best ways to hedge against that is to form tighter informal bonds with larger numbers of smaller countries in the hope that they can convince the larger powers to keep the peace. Stephen Jedgetts, ABC News, Perth.
Australia has joined the United Nations in saying it's deeply concerned about the fate of civilians in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered his military to draw up a plan to evacuate Palestinian refugees before it begins a ground attack to defeat remaining Hamas fighters. Foreign Minister Penny Wong says civilians must be protected.
More than half of Gaza's population of 2.3 million people have fled to Rafah since the war began in October. Plans for an evacuation ahead of an Israeli ground invasion have intensified feelings of sheer terror.
We're afraid. Where will we go? We're so worried. I don't want to migrate. Whatever Israel wants to do, let it do. I won't go anywhere. I will die in my tent.
The tiny southern city was already overcrowded and not designed for the huge influx of refugees. Disease is spreading as families here are living in unsanitary conditions, making them especially vulnerable. In the past 48 hours, airstrikes on residential buildings have killed more civilians, including children.
There was a very powerful explosion. We heard a lot of screams and stones falling from above. We found a father and his daughter dead on the ground. As you can see, the situation is dire. An entire building has been destroyed without any warning.
The United Nations says there is very little they can do when ground attacks begin.
We're trying to keep civilians fed, keep them dry and warm. It is nearly impossible for us to protect them from tank fire, from artillery shells.
But amongst the barbed wire outside the Rafah tent camps, these refugee kids say they want to decorate the sky.
We have lost all our toys at home as well as our friends and our loved ones. The planes of the Israelis carry out airstrikes while ours do not.
Even if the Israeli military does move these civilians, where would they go? The United Nations says forced displacement is against international law, and Australia's Foreign Minister says she's deeply concerned about reports of this impending operation. Alison Horn, ABC News, Jerusalem.
To Victoria now, where police have called off search crews scouring bushland for a Ballarat mother almost a week after she went missing. Investigators are expanding calls for dashcam and CCTV footage as the mystery of the 51-year-old's disappearance deepens.
Once overrun with search teams, the sprawling forest to Ballarat's east was today comparatively empty, apart from some dedicated locals.
It's pretty dense, as you can see, but everyone does a little bit. You never know, they might find something.
We've come up from Melbourne just to have a look through. I'm a mother of 3, and if I was missing, I would want everyone on board trying to find me.
Police confirmed their officers, alongside SES and CFA volunteers, have been called back from the active search for the beloved mother of 3. After 6 days of detailed searches between her Eureka Street home, where she set out for a trail run on Sunday morning, and Buninyong, about 12 kilometres south, found no trace of the 51-year-olds. The police now want anyone with CCTV or dashcam footage from Ballarat East, Mount Helen or Buninyong during the day on Sunday to come forward, saying even if the footage does not depict Samantha, detectives are keen to review all footage in the areas between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m.
It is a massive task, and now that we've found out they've scaled back the search, it seems an almost impossible task, but I think everyone just really wants to get Samantha home.
It's been almost a week since the last known sighting of Samantha Murphy. In that time, some daytime temperatures have reached above 30 degrees. Some nights have dropped into the single digits. Police hold significant concerns for her welfare.
If there's that slight possibility that she's alive, that we need to keep looking.
Specialist detectives have broadened their investigation in a bid to find new leads. The search effort will scale back up again if it does. Jesse Thompson, ABC News.
Pakistan's two leading figures in the national election have both declared victory, underlining a chaotic campaign dominated by violence. Nawaz Sharif says his party has won, but political allies of the imprisoned Imran Khan claim they have secured more seats overall.
Nawaz Sharif has claimed victory in Pakistan's election, despite results not showing a clear winner. Sharif will need to secure a coalition to govern. His party has won fewer seats than his rival Imran Khan, whose political allies ran as independents. A coalition is no easy task in a country this deeply divided. 2 people were killed in riots over delayed voting results. Many suspect that was a sign these elections are rigged, and protests erupted in areas with strong support for Khan-backed candidates. Sharif will need more than a dove to find peace in Pakistan, as the country struggles with soaring inflation and an unstable economy. Analysts have described this as one of Pakistan's least credible elections. An internet shutdown, delays in polls and slow results have triggered suspicions of vote rigging in favour of political parties backed by the country's powerful military. Just a day before the election, at least 28 people were killed in bombings at political offices. Authorities say they suspended mobile and internet services to maintain law and order. Khan supporters worry this had a disproportionate impact on their tech-heavy campaign.
I don't think Pakistan has ever seen the level of tyranny that people on the streets have faced, but they are fighting back.
With Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party using TikTok rallies to reach voters. And even artificial intelligence to deliver speeches on his behalf. But many remained defiant in spite of the blackout.
We want people to elect candidates who will resolve all of our problems, who will do something to improve our future.
In the midst of a difficult and deadly chapter in Pakistan's political history, people are focused on making a better life for themselves. Meghna Bali, ABC News.
US President Joe Biden will appoint a high-level task force to tighten the supervision of classified material during presidential transitions. It comes after the special counsel's report into Joe Biden's handling of classified documents said the president was an elderly man with a poor memory. The vice president has slammed the comments as politically motivated.
As a former prosecutor, the comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate.
Prince Harry has settled the final elements of his phone hacking claim against Britain's Daily Mirror and called for authorities to uphold the law when it comes to illegal behaviour by media outlets. The publisher has agreed to pay the Prince's legal costs and substantial damages.
The Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year, Cam the Man Hayward.
The Prince wasn't in court today. He was in the US for an NFL awards show.
I'm just shocked. That's Prince Harry.
A world away from the British tabloids. In December, the High Court ruled that Prince Harry had been the victim of phone hacking by journalists at the Mirror newspapers. Now, the same publisher has settled over similar complaints relating to a further 115 articles. Outside the court, Harry's lawyer issued a statement on his behalf.
Everything we said was happening at Mirror Group was in fact happening, and indeed far worse, as the court ruled in its extremely damaging judgment.
Piers Morgan was the editor of the Daily Mirror 20 years ago. Prince Harry says he knew what his reporters were up to, a claim Piers Morgan denies.
Invading the privacy of the royal family is utterly
reprehensible. And on that, I share Prince Harry's opinion. I just wish he'd stop doing it.
What about you? Do you wish you hadn't done it? Have you heard from the police?
And this is not the end of Harry's crusade against Britain's notorious tabloids.
Prince Harry's guns are going to train on The Sun, and there's a case against them later in the year, and then inexorably after that on the Mail newspaper groups.
He's pushing for cultural change in the media.
I believe in the positive change it will bring for all of us.
Prince Harry said in that statement that his mission continues. That suggests he wants justice for other victims of phone hacking, and he wants to see prosecutions.
Steve Kinane, ABC News, London.
Back home now, and Lunar New Year festivities are well underway in Dixon this evening, welcoming the Year of the Dragon. Hundreds of people have packed Woolly Street for a family-friendly celebration. Food trucks, face painting, calligraphy and, of course, dragons are among the entertainment on offer. A change in medical testing could help drive down rates of sexually transmitted infections in Australia. 1 in 6 Australians will get an STI, and the rates have been increasing in recent years. Natalie Whiting reports.
Could a change in how we test for STIs help bring down the high rates of infections in Australia? The number of syphilis cases has tripled over the past decade. There was a drop during COVID-19, but otherwise you can see it's been steadily rising. Rates of gonorrhea have also been increasing. Chlamydia remains the most common STI, with about 94,000 confirmed cases a year. A study from the Melbourne Sexual Health Centre found getting people a rapid test result could help slow the spread.
I'm pretty sure she's got chlamydia.
It usually takes 5 to 7 days to get answers back from a lab. The common practice is for a doctor to prescribe an antibiotic based on the symptoms, rather than wait for the test result.
You can imagine that is going to result in a lot of antibiotic overuse or overtreatment, as well as misuse.
So during the study, we had access to a rapid test. They provided the result within a couple of hours.
It meant if the patient did have an STI, doctors could prescribe the correct antibiotic and people could notify their sexual partners immediately.
There are other specific STIs that are developing resistance, and knowing the actual antibiotic that will treat that infection is even more important in combating rising STIs.
But converting to rapid testing in big, well-established clinics could be difficult and expensive. There are a few factors that are likely contributing to the high rates of STIs. The pandemic interrupted testing and healthcare. Rates are higher in Aboriginal communities and remote locations, again pointing to a lack of access to testing and treatment. And effective HIV prevention medication may be leading to a reduction in condom use, particularly among gay and bisexual men. The federal government is rolling out a new campaign on social media and dating apps, encouraging people to get tested and use protection.
Hundreds of thousands of women suffer from endometriosis, and there's no cure. But now there's a potential game changer for sufferers of the painful condition. New specialist clinics have sprung up around Australia, and many had long waiting lists before they even opened their doors. Doctors and advocates are calling for even more resources, saying many women, especially in regional areas, are still missing out on treatment.
Hi Leanne, come through. Good to see you again. Come in.
When you come in here, you know that you're in a safe space. Just try to keep these muscles nice and relaxed.
Leanne Williams suffers from endometriosis, otherwise known as endo.
It almost feels like a hot poker in your bottom and someone twisting it.
It's been so painful at times that she's ended up in hospital emergency, but on one occasion, staff thought she was a drug addict.
I was screaming in pain, and for someone to look at you and go, oh, here's an addiction brochure, it's pretty condescending, and it shows a lack of understanding and a lack of empathy.
Right, so we'll just check your blood pressure. Thank you. Fast forward 3 years and Leanne has come a long way in her battle to be believed. She's one of the first patients to use this new federally funded clinic in suburban Perth, dedicated to endometriosis and pelvic pain. 22 of the centres have opened up around Australia in recent months, offering relief from long wait times to see specialists in the public system.
Probably almost a 2-year wait is my understanding for assessment of these patients. In that time, ongoing pain and suffering occurs.
Are you maybe able to just describe the pain to me a little bit? Patients are screened for up to an hour before their first visit. It's a one-stop shop, offering various treatment and pain management options, including pelvic health physio.
We see, the pelvic floor becoming really tense, and that can be a large driver to their pain.
Endo happens when tissue similar to the lining of the uterus grows elsewhere, usually around the ovaries. It's common. In one age group, 1 in 7 women have got it. At the opening of another of the clinics on the Gold Coast recently, advocates welcomed the new facilities, but said not enough GPs were referring their patients to them.
Take their patients seriously when they present with pelvic pain and not just say, oh, it's normal to have pain with your period. Well, it's not.
Thank you so much. But GPs believe a lot of progress has been made on women's health generally in the 5 years since Australia launched a national action plan to tackle the chronic disease.
With 50% of our GPs now being women, this is a problem that is a common one that we deal with within general practice. And this is what's causing your pain.
Dr Nicole Higgins, who's based in Mackay, says the biggest issue now is providing care for women in remote and regional areas.
Place-based solutions are really what's important versus just plonking clinics in certain places.
The Commonwealth spent nearly $29 million on research to find a cause and a cure for endo. To put that in proportion, since 2014, the National Health and Medical Research Councils spent over $530 million on diabetes research. Advocates say endo should receive a similar investment, given its impact.
The cost to the economy is estimated to be around $9.7 billion.
In the meantime, many patients face the heartbreaking side effect of struggling to have children. Leanne has overcome that challenge with baby Orlando to prove it.
It's been since I stopped breastfeeding him that I've had an increase in pain.
It's hoped these clinics can offer alternatives to the heavy drugs many patients rely on.
Bye-bye, wave, bye-bye.
Bye.
Until a cure is found, they're only likely to get busier. Claire Moody, ABC News.
To sport now, and Australia will head to Adelaide with a 1-0 T20 series lead over the West Indies after prevailing by 11 runs at Hobart's Bellerive Oval. Sent into bat, David Warner starred in his milestone T20 international, scoring 70 off 36 as he became the first player to represent 100 times in all 3 formats. Australia went on to post 7 for 213, challenging the West Indies to score the highest T20 international score at the ground to win. It was an impressive start to the chase from Brandon King and Johnson Charles, but 3 wickets from Adam Zampa proved vital for the hosts.
Almost a perfect game, put on a really good total. If anything, we might have left a few out there. We knew they were going to come really hard in the power play to try and make it easier for themselves at the back end.
An unbeaten half-century from Beth Mooney has propelled Australia to 277 in the 3rd Women's One-Day International against South Africa at North Sydney Oval. Australia captain Elisa Healy also made 50 after winning the toss and electing to bat. Mooney started slowly but accelerated towards the end of the innings, smashing 10 boundaries on her way to 82 not out. Masabata Klaas was the pick of the Proteas bowlers, taking 4 for 56. Round 16 of the A-League women's competition has seen some movement at the top of the ladder, with a team jumping inside the top 4. In Gosford, it took the Central Coast Mariners just 6 minutes to get a lead over the Victory. Melbourne's Emily Gilnick levelled the scores midway through the second half to finish the game with a 1-1 draw. Meanwhile, in Bathurst, the Western Sydney Wanderers are back to their winning ways, defeating the Newcastle Jets last night 2-1. The Jets jumped out to an early lead before the Wanderers equalised just before half-time. Vicky Bruce scored the winning goal in the 78th minute to put the Wanderers back inside the top 4. And in Melbourne, the game between Sydney FC and Melbourne City was delayed after Sydney's team bus went to the wrong venue. A short time ago, the score was 0-0. Negative feelings about body image are one of the major barriers to women and girls participating in sport. The ABC has spoken to several sportswomen to share their feelings around their relationships with their bodies.
Three-time Olympic diver Annabelle Smith first experienced body image issues when she hit puberty at 17, which coincided with her moving to Brisbane and away from her family.
As an elite diver, I was surrounded by other elite divers who had a specific body type, and I think feeling the pressure to have to look like everyone else was a common occurrence amongst a lot of our athletes.
Comments from support staff and others in the diving community didn't help either.
You're looking heavy, or you look like you need to do some more cardio, or then on the flip side, you're looking really fit and really strong when I was probably at my lightest and unhealthy as well.
Poor body image can lead to mental health issues, disordered eating or eating disorders. And it's not always easy for athletes to accept their body.
I think it's taken me a long time to be okay with myself and my body, like being disabled and having like a severe scoliosis. There's not many people that look like me out there, I'd say. But for me now is, how do I perform? How do I feel strength-wise?
Coaches and support staff are being encouraged to be mindful of their language when speaking to athletes and focus on performance over aesthetics.
Physically, am I able to do my job? Do I go to training? Am I able to make that sprint? Am I able to push off and make that dive that's going to, win my team the game? That's what we should be looking at.
Rather than lean or thin, you talk about being strong and being capable of performing the activity in the right way. So focusing more on those performance words rather than how you look words.
And we're not supposed to look like we looked when we were 12, when we're 18, and everything that's happening with our bodies is perfectly normal.
Smith says greater education and awareness for everyone involved in sport is needed to create a positive environment for all athletes. Amanda Shalala, ABC News.
A 100-year-old diver has proved age is not a barrier, displaying his skills at the World Aquatics in Doha. The crowd cheered on Iran-born Taghi Asghari as he took to the water. Over his lifetime, Asghari has won 9 national titles in Iran and competed in 2 Asian Games. And there was one more medal for the centenarian, awarded by the World Aquatics president in a special presentation. To the weather now, and we begin your observations at Dixon Pool, where Martin Roberts of Ainslie was coaching swimmers at sunrise as part of preparations for the Paris Paralympics. And ahead of Valentine's Day, Chris Raymond shared the heart shapes formed by 2 swans courting near the Kingston foreshore, where Jerrabomberra Creek meets Lake Burley Griffin. Meanwhile, at Narrabundah, Graham Taylor of Red Hill observed this tawny frogmouth pair having a little rest and a chuckle together. Send your weather pictures to canberraweatherpics@abc.net.au. To welcome the year of the wood dragon, we began with a low of 15 and reached a cloudy 24 degrees. Around our region, Griffith got to 34, Goulburn and Bega 22, Thredbo reached 14 degrees. Another hot one for Perth with a sunny top of 42 today, showers and stormy over Darwin and 33. The satellite shows clouds scattered across the tropics and western and southern Queensland, with troughs generating showers and thunderstorms. Cloud over eastern New South Wales and Queensland in onshore winds is bringing a few showers, clearer elsewhere with high pressure. Tomorrow, Sydney can expect a shower or two and 26, Hobart partly cloudy and 26. Around our region, Yass Valley, partly cloudy and 30, Bateman's Bay, partly cloudy and 25, and there is a hazardous surf warning for the Illawarra coast. Thredbo, mostly sunny and 17. Albury and Wodonga, sunny and 33. Canberra can expect a low of 12 and a partly cloudy top of 27 with winds east to southeasterly 15 to 20 kilometres an hour before becoming light before dawn. The sun will rise at 6:27 and set at 8:07. Looking ahead, partly cloudy on Monday with 30 the top, a sunny morning on Tuesday before a top of 31, and then a high chance of afternoon and evening showers. Valentine's Day is looking like a cloudy, wet and thundery day with 28 the top. And that's the very latest from the Canberra newsroom. I'm Adrienne Francis. Great to be with you. Enjoy your evening. Yarra, good night.